speaking of the challenges the country faces, we are joined by Rupen to discuss the issue of poverty in Lebanon. Rupen is the Director for Community Development at the Lebanese Society for Educational and Social Development, and he is also co-author of Profiles of Poverty. Welcome, Mr.
Thank you.
So what can you tell me about this book?
This book is unique because there's a lot of statistics that already exist. For example, one of the statistics, which is a UN statistic, says that 28.5% of Lebanese live below the poverty line, 8% in extreme poverty. Those are extremely high numbers.
Well, how do you qualify poverty versus extreme poverty?
Extreme poverty means that people have enough to live for one day. It's real hardship. Now, while the numbers existed, the challenge had been, so who are they and where do they live? What do they look like? What's life like? How do they define their reality? And so what this study has done is that it's looked at 8 communities right across the country and tried to identify who are the poor and why are they poor, the causes of poverty.
Okay, so what are the causes of poverty that you found after? How many years did it take you to research this?
From conception to now 3 years and 2 years of field work.
Okay.
The causes vary, but the causes are not just the fact that people don't have enough money. The real cause is because people are marginalized, people are voiceless, people are excluded from the mainstreams of society. People who live in certain parts of Akkar.
Did you get to meet any of these people and talk to them?
We interviewed over 400 people.
Oh, 400 people.
So it's very much a field-based research.
Is there a general thing that you got from them? Is there anything specific that they all had in common that you would like our viewers to know about?
I think one of the most common things that we heard is that most people aren't aware that the poor exist in Lebanon.
Why is that so? Why do you think that is?
That's a very interesting question. As we went through the interview, we were intrigued by that. I think part of it has to do is as Lebanon has recovered from the civil war, it wants to portray an image of stability, of prosperity, that life is good. Poverty is ugly, and nobody wants to talk about it or deal with it.
Right. Actually, as I was skimming through your book, I came across this specific sentence: poverty in a middle-income country like Lebanon is often ignored as the country as a whole is not poor. Many within the country even see it as an embarrassment and actively try to cover it up. So not a lot of people like to talk about it.
No, because it tarnishes the image of Lebanon. And my experience has been that the greatness of a country is not just measured by military might and financial prosperity, but also by the fact that do they take care of those who are vulnerable?
Well, what is the government trying to do with the poor? Are they doing anything?
Over the last number of years, the governments, what they have done is they have identified this as an issue. It hasn't gotten much publicity and profile, but over the last few years, the National Poverty Targeting Program has been established. This is funded by the World Bank, the Italian and the Canadian governments, and it targets the 8% who are extremely poor. It looks at providing things like subsidies, access to services, things like that. So the government is concerned. The last few years, the government has been looking at this issue and saying, what do we do? But I think it's the public who aren't aware. I think that's the concern.
The public. Are there specific solutions that we can talk about in order to, it takes a lot of time to eradicate poverty completely. That's one of the Millennium Development Goals by the United Nations. But is there anything that you can suggest that will help alleviate the situation?
Poverty is actually a human rights issue. And I think it starts with an awareness that poverty is real. It's not just a number, but it's real. And if we open our eyes and not only drive by the stadium, but realize right behind the stadium, there are pockets of poverty. And there are pockets of poverty in just various parts of the country, but we don't see them. I think the starting point is that we are aware of that. The second is to move beyond charity, not just to give money to do something good, but to understand what the causes are and begin to deal with some of the causes. So why are some of these communities marginalized? Why are they excluded from mainstream society? How do we treat them? Do we treat them differently? So I think that's where it starts. Solutions flow out of that awareness.
So this is basically to make people more aware of what is happening in Lebanon and the side of poverty that we don't usually talk about every day and we don't
Yeah.
speak of, we don't even see it every day because it is in marginalized areas of the country.
Exactly, exactly. There's so many other things on the agenda. All we're saying, put poverty on the agenda too.
Okay. Well, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
joining us today, Mr. Das.
Our pleasure.
That was Mr. Rupen Das, co-author of Profiles of Poverty. Coming up next. 5 Yemenis are killed in a new day of clashes as interim leaders struggle to contain the crackdown. Stay with us for this and more.